that. Work here at Residential, have a part to play in the IOP program as well. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit today about a topic that resonates with me as a man in recovery, resonates with me as a dude who is trying to grow spiritually, who's trying to show up for his family, trying to show up for life in general today. Have gotten better at it through the help of many others, which is nice. Very grateful for that. So what I want to talk to you guys about is kind of this idea of working out, of fitness, of our physical fitness, and how our physical fitness and our spiritual fitness actually kind of share a lot of qualities. They're not exactly the same, right? But there are some similarities. There's some similarities here. What I want to do to start out this group is actually have you watch a clip. There's going to be some instructions with the clip. Follow those instructions. It's about a 7.5 minute video. The link should be available on the app. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed that 7.5 minutes of a Joe Rogan interview with a man named Zahabi is his name, South American. Some of the things that he talks about in there is how in Western society we are very much we're focusing on killing it, on maxing out, on just going full board, and that's kind of a Western, maybe American mindset, and how in Olympic wrestling, how these Russian wrestlers are dominant in the sport and how they dominate the Americans most of the time. And it's because they relax a little bit. They take consistency over intensity, and that principle has led them to success. Now, he did still talk about the trainer Furious did still talk about intensity in training camps, how there is benefit to portions of intensity. And when we look at treatment and getting sober, how we have periods of intensity, residential treatment is a period of intensity. Like, absolutely. IOP is a lot less. Day group, PHP, IOP, all that stuff's a little less intense. And our goal, my hope for you, is that you're finding a state of flow. You're finding a state of flow through this. I don't know if you guys have ever been doing something that you're really passionate about, whether it's reading a book, maybe reading a book, giving a talk, writing, engaged in a conversation with a close friend, and time just flies by. Time seems to fly by. That's called being in a state of flow. I'm going to go to the whiteboard. Go to the whiteboard here. We are going to check out this chart. Check out a chart. Here we go. Anxiety is up here. Boredom is down here. Challenge is over here on the side. And skill. So, a little bit about my experience when I got sober and came here into treatment at Ren'ais'sance Ranch. I was very much, if this was me, probably my first couple of weeks, let's take a look at my first couple of weeks in treatment. I was either here or like up here. You guys in our program have either had or will have the chance to work a step one. You're going to work a step one process in front of the group with your brothers who love you, who are going to point out blind spots. I remember mine. I was up here. I was in the anxiety. I was definitely on the anxiety side of the graph. Boredom can be there too. You were sitting in a group and you're just like, oh, this is a drag. I'd rather be doing something else. Like, hopefully you're not feeling that today in this group. Truly hope that. I'm trying to be a little more engaging here. They keep you out of this boredom state, okay? The ideal spot, here in the middle, where we've got some anxiety, we're out of the stage of boredom, we're receiving a challenge and it matches our skill level. When I came in, the skill to participate in a group and to be engaged in the topics of recovery wasn't there yet. My skill was like very minimal. over time through practice, I hope we're developing these skills of talking about ego to ego, talking about resentment, all these topics that we talk about here puts us in this state of flow where time kind of goes by. And so in that clip that you guys watched, he talks about the flow chart. Being in the flow when we're training for our physical fitness. I'm introducing being in a state of flow for our spiritual fitness as well. If I go to, let's say I triple up on AA meetings that day, I call my sponsor 2 times, I make sure I'm writing, praying, reading the scriptures, big book, whatever it is for you that feeds you spiritually, but I absolutely kill it that day. Absolutely kill it. To the point where the next day, I don't want to do that stuff. It's like, man, I killed it yesterday. I'm good. That's the idea that I want to kind of start to erase for you guys, where consistency is more important than intensity. There are periods of intensity. You guys go to there are big book retreats that we do here. There's tons of engagement out in 12-step communities. There are periods for intensity that are beneficial, but that is not the norm. That's not the norm of the people that I see that have long-term sobriety, that are engaged, that seem to be living good lives. They have found a way to be in this state of flow because they're looking at consistency. What can I do today that's going to set me up to train spiritually the next day? Pretty cool stuff. Resonates with me. I'm going to draw another chart. Another chart coming at you. Coming at you guys. Get out your griddles. Get out your griddles. Okay? Here we go. Might take a sec to set up. All right. Got this chart up. There's going to be a PDF somewhere in this app, somewhere on this that has a link to this graphic as well, because we're going to do a little interactive exercise. It's going to be super interactive. It's going to be an exercise. Hopefully it's insightful for you. We're looking at 2 things here, gentlemen. We're going to be looking at our self-worth and our quality of life. Just a quick little backstory. Not sure if this is super relevant. About 2 years ago, quarantine hit, the pandemic kind of came to light, and I was looking at COVID graphs pretty compulsively, and I kind of got the idea for this group. Because I was looking at graphs, I was looking at things, and I was like, how does this relate to recovery? Anyways, it kind of gave me an idea of okay, there's these things that are really important to me in my life today. They weren't when I was using. They weren't when I was out there running and gunning. My self-worth was in the dumps. My quality of life was in the dumps. Today, these are 2 aspects of my recovery that if I pay attention to, I can give an accurate assessment, an accurate appraisal, see where I'm at, and see how I can improve. That's why we're talking about them. They're important to me. Switching it up to our 2 colors with purple and red. I don't know why I chose these colors, but I did. Self-worth is going to be purple. Okay? It's going to be purple. You guys get the idea. Quality of life is going to be red for whatever reason. Probably arbitrary. Here we go. And, actually, I'm going to keep these out. Ready to go. In black. For illustrative purposes, guys, I am going to look at my first few weeks in treatment here. For 5th week, 6th week. Let's do 2 more. It's about 8 weeks that we spend in residential. I'm not going to assign quantitative values to those, but you guys are going to get the idea. When I came in, not black. We're going to do quality of life first. Day 1 in Ren'ais'sance Ranch in residential. Here we are. Quality of life, next to 0. Let's see, everything that I belong fit into a backpack. My family had written me off. A shower, physical appearance was not great. Pretty much in the dumps. Quality of life down. Now, week 1 in the ranch, going through a taper and a detox process. I remember talking to other guys that had the same story as me, and that was kind of a shocker because I thought I was alone and isolated for so long. I'm going to get a little uptick because of the camaraderie and the brotherhood that I found here. Right around here, I did a step 1. We talked a little bit about a step 1 previously. I'm going to put a little downtick there. Got called out, got kind of put on blast for some ego defense mechanisms. Afterwards, started to increase some awareness and started engaging in the 12 steps. I remember, getting some family visits. My family had kind of written me off and weren't very present in my life. I'm going to put a general uptick here as well. Fourth step, around 30 days, looking at some of the wreckage I had caused in my past, another downtick. Doing a fifth step at 6 and 7 was a spiritual high. Going through my treatment, I remember getting some fear and anxiety about getting out of this place. What am I going to do for a job? I had some legal issues. Got some hope and experience from other people who'd done it before me. Generally like that. Hills and valleys, just for illustrative purposes. My self-worth. Again, safe to say, kind of started next to 0 at day 1. Wasn't doing so hot. Didn't feel great about myself. Russ wasn't doing so hot. So we're just gonna kind of give just a steady increase throughout 60 days in residential. Why did I draw these? Why do these matter? As you see illustrated here, there's some of these disparities, some of these hills and valleys. In my experience, and something I want to invite you guys to take a look at, these areas I was at the biggest risk for relapse. Where my self-worth and my quality of life, there were these disparities. They weren't lining up. Why am I at greater risk for relapse there? For me as an alcoholic, if I get out of treatment, and let's just be clear here, our general recommendation is you guys don't look for your career job when you're getting out of here. You're not looking for the 6-figure, like something that's going to be 60 hours a week, that's going to be really stressful. We're suggesting not to seek that right out the gate. Reason being is our self-worth in early sobriety is healing. It's healing. It's on this general trend, slow but steady, if we're looking at consistency over intensity, right? Increasing. Now, if I, just again for illustrative purposes, get out of 60 days and I land a corporate executive job that's paying me $300K a year. Let's just say that, for example. I hope I never have that job, by the way. It's going to go like that. It's going to spike. And if my self-worth is still down here, in the dumps, that's a bigger risk for relapse. Make sense? That makes sense? Here's another spike. I get out of Ren'ais'sance Ranch. It's been suggested to me that I focus on myself, that I stay away from dating, and I get a girlfriend or a boyfriend. I don't care, whatever it is. There's a spike. There's a spike. It's going to feel really good to get some validation from the gender I'm attracted to. And if my self-worth's still down here, big risk for relapse because of that disparity between the quality of life and how I'm truly feeling about myself. All right, guys, so back to the idea of consistency versus intensity. Everyone's kind of got their like role models and their heroes growing up. They might be sports athletes, they might be church leaders, they might be family, whatever it is. I'm going to talk about one of mine. His name was George St. Pierre. He was an MMA fighter, and his prime was kind of 2004, 2005, 2008, right around there. He wrote an autobiography called The Way of the Fight. And as I was reading this, I kind of had some realizations of how that applied to my recovery as well. Through his training, he was an undefeated jiu-jitsu master, amazing ground game. He was 12-0. He's 12-0 in 2007. And he had this fight that he was strongly favored in. He was favored in this fight versus a man named Matt Serra. I don't know if you guys remember Matt Serra. He wasn't as well known. He wasn't as talented. He was an underdog. And in this fight in 2007, George St. Pierre goes in and he attributes, in his book, he talks about having pride and having ego entering into this fight and losing his first fight, his first professional match. Gets tapped out by this Matt Serra kid. And how that was just such a strong blow to him, how he really struggled, questioned everything that he'd done up to that point. And what he did, one of the things, and this is kind of how it applies to us in Ren'ais'sance Ranch. Here in residential, if you guys don't know, we have you guys carry around a brick, right? A brick that represents our ego. And what George St. Pierre did is he took a brick and he put a piece of tape on this brick and he wrote Matt Serra's name on it. And he carried that brick around with him in his gym bag for a year. April 2007 is when he lost his first fight. April 2008, he lines up a rematch with Matt Serra. Long story short, he goes into the fight, he ends up winning. It's a good fight, he ends up winning. But before the fight, he took his brick and he's from Canada. George St. Pierre is from Canada, and he stands on this cold bridge in March and throws that brick off the bridge. Just lets go of it. Had carried it around for a year, and that really applies to what we do here at Ren'ais'sance Ranch. I thought it was a cool story. We didn't invent the brick representing our ego. It's an idea that's been helpful for a lot of guys. The clip that you watched, here's the tie. The clip that you watched with that Joe Rogan interview, Firas Zahavi was George St. Pierre's mentor, and in this book that we're gonna show in this book that we're not affiliated with or anything. It's just, again, he's just a recovery kind of role model for me. He was his trainer. He was his mentor. We all need mentors in recovery, some that we look up to, some that can kind of show us the path, show us the way. And that guy that we listened to in that clip was George St. Pierre's mentor. So it's kind of a cool tie. Looking at our physical fitness versus our spiritual fitness and how they actually intersect. Looking at how our self-worth and our quality of life might be intersecting or kind of growing apart. When, again, back to this, when my quality of life greatly exceeds my self-worth, I'm at risk for relapse, and I'm also at risk for self-sabotage. Because deep down, I don't believe that I deserve what I have in my life. And so it's really important through for me at least, taking constant inventory. Like seeing where I'm at, getting that appraisal of like, man, I'm really slacking in these areas. My self-worth isn't doing so hot. Here's some examples of it. And I can only get that insight, number one, through other people. Number two, a relationship with a higher power. And number three, through looking at it, through using the tool of writing. Like that's the only ways I get that insight. Otherwise, I'm just kind of in blind mode, causing wreckage, usually using drugs and drinking. So, yeah.
Sending it.
Dude, I mean, in closing, guys, I this is a group that I have some passion about as I kind of believe in this holistic approach to treatment where we have our physical, our mental, and our spiritual needs in balance, and the growth in those areas in balance too. If any one of those starts slacking, the other kind of suffer. Vice versa, it's this interchangeable balance. Recovery's been a large balancing act for me. So through kind of analyzing where we're at, hopefully it can bring us to a spot where we recognize where we're out of balance. And if I can take, so this flow chart that we analyzed, if I can just slap it into my life and find that these areas are flowing, I'm feeling better, I'm doing better, I'm happy and I'm fulfilled, and most importantly, I'm sober. So that's a cool thing. So, namaste, thank you.
Woo!